Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guests this morning. We are honored by their presence. Shri Dinesh Gundurao, Honorable Minister, Health and Family Welfare, Government of Karnataka, whose leadership has been instrumental in advancing public health initiatives. We are equally privileged to welcome Dr. Rajiv Singh Raghuvanshi, the Drug Controller General of India, a key architect for India's pharmaceutical regulatory framework. Their presence greatly enriched this session. Now, I may invite Mr. Harish Jain, Chairman LOC, to kindly welcome the distinguished dignitaries.
Good morning all. As we say in Kannada, Ellarigu Namaskara. Today, we are very privileged to have with us our dynamic Honorable Health Minister of Karnataka, Sri Dinesh Gundurao ji, who has been always been a support for the whole, not only the pharmaceutical industry, but also to the whole pharma profession of this state. He is proactive, dynamic, and he is very receptive to solve all the issues concerning the pharma profession. Now I welcome you, sir. I request our IPCA President, Milind Numekar ji, to welcome him with a bouquet of flowers. His presence today here, yesterday he was supposed to be a guest of honor in our inaugural function, and because of the legislature session in Belgavi, which was the last day yesterday, he could not make. But then you can understand his passion and understanding of our profession. He has made it to a point, although even because of his busy schedule, he could make it today and be amongst us, with us. He told very clearly, I want to be amongst all the pharmacy professionals of this country. Sir, we have more than 10,000 visitors to this conference and many more thousand to the exhibition area. There are 8,000 registered delegates who have come from all across every nook and corner of the country, whether it is Jammu and Kashmir, whether it is Northeast India, whole south of India is here, Central India, Western India, Northern India, everywhere from there. We are all privileged that all the delegates are here. Many state drugs controllers are there. Huge number of education institutions, vice chancellors, CRO leaders are there, and whole pharmaceutical industry. It's a kind of a Mahakumbh for whole pharmaceutical industry. This is the event where this is the 74th year, except for a brief COVID period, which we could not hold. But then this is a 74th year in running, and probably much before even the independence of India. So this is, if the today's pharmaceutical industry is so big, is because of this forum where the networking and all the research related things happen. There are parallel scientific sessions happening, there are exhibition halls, AI pavilion, education pavilion, and all sort of activities are being planned. We welcome you, sir, once again. We are also privileged. We have a person who is redefining the pharmaceutical landscape of India. If Indian pharma has to become Viksit by 2047, he is the person who is going to drive this initiative. We have with us Dr. Rajiv Raghuvanshi, Drugs Controller General of India. I request our KDPMA President, Jatish Sheth, to kindly welcome him with a and he had told me, he is always happy to be one amongst us, and he is one amongst us. Remember, he telling me long time back, almost 3 decades back, he used to be a volunteer in IPC. And today, again, he was also yesterday supposed to be the guest of honor, but because of his urgent meetings in PMO, WHO and Health Ministry, he could not come. But then he has took a late night flight yesterday and reached Bangalore at 3 a.m. in the morning, and today early morning he is there with us. We welcome you, sir. On all he is basically, although he is a regulator, but I know at heart he is a scientist. And when I asked him, sir, will be your presentation? And he said something which is very dear to my heart, like Viksit Bharat 2047. So immediately after this small inaugural, he will be giving a presentation on Viksit 2047. And the initiatives of the government and what the profession and the industry, how we have to go by 2047. Probably this will be a watershed moment in the history of Indian pharma, where we will be knowing what happened in IPC in this session and after that. So I welcome you once again, sir. We also have with us today, again, our beloved Additional Drugs Controller, Dr. Suresh, who has been there with us right from yesterday morning. And before that also, he is a kind of a part of LOC, the kind of help he did with all the preparations and all. So I welcome once again Dr. Umesh. I request our Jatish Sheth to kindly welcome him a bouquet of flowers. I also welcome all the delegates, regulators, industry captains. We have amongst us Dr. Chandrasekhar Ranga is there, joined the DCGI. He is also amongst there. All the senior officers of CDSCO, State Drugs Control Department, industry captains, all the delegates, scientists, academicians. I welcome you all to this event, and without taking much of time, I request Sri Dinesh Gunduravji to kindly address the gathering. Theme is Artificial Intelligence and Technology in Pharma.
He's just mentioning me what the theme of the conference is. So I think that's a very important theme. So I'm very happy to be here at the 74th Indian Pharmaceutical Congress, and we have our Drug Controller General Raghuvanshi ji, who has come all the way. So I want to welcome him on behalf of the Government of Karnataka also to this gathering. And the Indian Pharmaceutical Council, the President of the Indian Pharmaceutical Council, then the State Pharmaceutical Council, Mr. Jatin and all his friends, and our Drug Controller Karnataka, Mr. Umesh, and all the other dignitaries who have come over here, and all other delegates who have come to this program. So I'm sure yesterday, today, and tomorrow, these 3 days, I was just looking at the chart which was just shown to me. A lot of important discussions, workshops, and debates will take place on the way the pharmaceutical industry is, in the future of the pharmaceutical industry. And the pharma industry is definitely a key area of interest for India, because for the Indian government and for the all state governments, because it is an industry in which India has excelled in. And we are known as the world's one of the largest producers of drugs and consumables, and we supply to the world. And especially in generic medicines and, a lot of drugs which, what is the term for that, which they use, the common kind of drugs that is produced all over. Generic, yeah, of course, generic, but there's one more term. Anyway, so this is a key, industry for us, and we have to ensure that this industry grows. And there are a lot of states which are doing very well. We have Telangana, and which has done very well. So many states in the North India also. And of course, Karnataka, also we have very many good industries, manufacturing pharma drugs here. So this is something which is, I think, requires greater and greater support from the governments. And this is based on science and research. So there is a need for us to also support research and funding for research. And also along with that, what becomes very important is the regulatory mechanism, because the quality of drugs and the quality of the ingredients that are used in the drugs, all this is something which has to be regulated with zero scope for any sort of malfunctioning or misappropriation happening, or any sort of weakening in the quality, because quality becomes most important when it comes to medicines and consumables, and because this has an impact on the person's health and person's life. So the regulatory system also, though we have laws in this country, and there are definitely good laws which are there to regulate, but at the same time, everything also depends upon how we implement those laws and how we follow those laws. So recently, we do 100 good things and one bad thing happens and that becomes the news. And this news just doesn't affect one particular state or one particular region. It affects our whole image as a country and also has a worldwide impact. So every small thing matters, and every small incident becomes a huge incident because this is connected to health, and it becomes global news and discussed all over. So we recently also we were just discussing now with the Drug Controller General how the cough syrup incident that took the tragedy that happened. Now, obviously, there's a failure. The system failed to check the manufacturing quality standards were maintained or not, and further checks were probably failed when the medicine was when the drugs was distributed. So wherever the checks were needed to be there, and which is there, those fail to prevent this from happening. So even if there is a loss of life in one person or two, it's not the question of numbers. Every life that is preventable becomes important. And especially when it happens like this, then all the more reason for us to relook at everything and see that how do we maintain our standards. So I think the Indian pharmaceutical industry we've got great people working, and even in Karnataka, as far as I know, Karnataka, our pharmaceutical industry, they are trying to maintain the highest standards. So if it's not that the quantity matters, but the quality matters more. It's not how big the company is, but how good the company is. So that I think should become, even if it's a small manufacturing unit, but the basic standards should not be compromised. And that's where I think, we have to be even more vigilant. And of course, we need to see that there is, the pharma industry gets whatever regulatory support and legal support from legislation. All that, whatever that we can do, definitely we are willing to do. And even in Karnataka, since our government came here, we are trying to reform the system, trying to make it more transparent, trying to make, to see that there is ease of doing business, but at the same time, there should not be any compromise on the good manufacturing practices. So that is what we are looking at. And even in the last session, we have passed a few amendments to the Drugs and Cosmetics Act also, which will be sent to Government of India for their approval also. So where we are trying to, see that how we can make our systems run better. So we are doing from our side what we can, and I assure the pharmaceutical industry that Government of Karnataka, we will stand by you and support you in whatever way we can. We want you to flourish, we want you to grow, we want you to develop, and we've got a name throughout the world, so that should not be, for whatever reason ever, we should not lose that reputation, and we should use that good reputation that we have to grow to even greater heights. So I'm sure this conference, 3-day conference, will lead to a lot of discussions, and I think post the conference, any new insights and new inputs that you want to give to our state in terms of policy making and any laws and regulations, definitely we are open for discussion, and whatever that we can do from our side to help you, I'll be definitely willing to do. So I'm wishing this conference all the best, and I'm sure this will lead, for the pharmaceutical industry to flourish more and to grow its reputation across the world. So thank you very much and wish you all the very best.
शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
Thanks all the dignitaries. Shri Dinesh Gundurao ji have to leave for his urgent engagement. I request our IPCA President Dr. Milind Umerkar ji and also our Drugs Controller and Jatish Seth sir to join me in felicitating Shri Dinesh Gundurao ji. Thanks, Honorable Health Minister, for sparing your valuable time. Thanks all the audience for being so positive and thing. Now, getting deep dive into the subject, before Dr. Rajiv Raghuvanshi ji starts his presentation and session, I want to give us, I don't know, he doesn't require much of a introduction, but thought as a formality, let me introduce him to the august audience. very first thing, as I said earlier, he is one amongst us. He did his doctorate from National Institute of Immunology in formulation. I think this is where the similarity all start. He has worked in industry for almost 3 decades. He has worked in Dr. Ranbaxy Laboratories. He has worked in National Institute of Immunology and government sector. He started the transformation of this country. Starting with Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, there are very first time, lot of things happened first time as far as the general chapters are concerned, monographs are concerned, lot of things started. And today, because of his efforts, many countries are coming forward to recognize Indian Pharmacopoeia as their standards of quality. That is a big positive for all of us at the industry, and our industry is getting a name. In 2023, if I'm not, he was appointed as a Drugs Controller General of India, and from the day he has taken over, again the transformation in the industry has started. The reputation of Indian pharmaceutical industry, not only as well as the contract research organizations, have risen many folds during his leadership, and he has been taking steps where the quality is at the heart of or on the top of the pyramid. So with this small introduction, I request Dr. Rajiv Raghuvanshi ji to start his session. It's all yours, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here for this session in 74th IPC. It's a bit of emotional moment for me because my association with IPC goes back to 1993 when I completed my PhD and I had joined Ranbaxy, and the IPC in Delhi was happening. I think it was 1993. No, that was before I joined Ranbaxy. Yeah, I was doing my PhD. And then I was actually member of the scientific committee of IPC, which was organized at Delhi IIT campus. And then that was the time when I understood the working of IPC, how it is organized, the size, the scale at which this is organized. And at that point in time, I still remember the 3,000 number of delegates was a big number for us. We were saying that this is the largest till that time in IPC. And this morning, Harish ji was telling me that us, the scale at which we are operating as a country. We know that we are exporting medicines to more than 200 countries in the world. And on the lighter side, in one of the international forums, I put this number that we are exporting to more than 200 countries in the world. And somebody from the audience said that there are only 196 countries in the world. How are you exporting to 200 countries? So then I had to tell that there are only 196 UN recognized countries, and India exports to those countries which are not recognized by UN also. So that's how the scale. In terms of statistics, the trade value currently, we are around 60 billion US dollars, distributed 50-50 between domestic and international. International is slightly more, couple of percentages more than domestic. 40% of US generics are produced in India and supplied from India. 25% of all the medicines consumed in United Kingdom is manufactured and supplied from India. 60% of global vaccine demand is manufactured in India. WHO depends largely on the vaccines manufactured in India. Biosimilars is the new space where we are demonstrating our leadership. Medical device is a sunrise industry for this country, where I think we closed last financial year around 15 billion US dollars, and it's growing more than 15-16% CAGR. So, just to put in context that we are operating at a large scale, at a scale probably no other country is operating in the world. As a regulator, we are approving almost 250 to 300 products. This year in 3 quarters, we have approved about 250 products in all categories. We are approving global clinical trials, 150 every year for last 3-4 years, which shows the confidence of the global pharmaceutical development companies and agencies on India, the increasing confidence on the regulatory system, on the data being generated. When it comes to the projections, we see numbers which are far more than what many of would expect. By 2030 means next 5 years, we have to hit about 130 billion US dollars, about 2.5 times from what we are today. We have to hit a number of 450 billion US dollars by 2047, when the government has put the target for becoming a Viksit Bharat. So these numbers are very, very encouraging, but at the same time, we sometimes feel that how will this come next maybe 20 years from 60 billion to we have to reach to 450 billion US dollars. And in spite of these big numbers which we are currently dealing and the projections which we have, if you see the participation of India in the global trade with respect to the value, the global trade currently is around 1.6 trillion US dollars, to be projected to be around 2.6 trillion US dollars in next 6 years by 2030. And from there, if you see our participation, it is less than 2%. 60 billion in the dynamics about 1.6 trillion US dollars. So how does it happen? I mean, that is the main point where we are participating at a huge scale, but our participation in terms of numbers is less than 2%. And here comes the issue which we need to solve together, and that is we are third largest in volume, but when it comes to value, we are 14th largest. And the reason is our business model as a country, which is generics. Generics has given us huge volumes, but when it comes to value, we have to see some other model for future, otherwise these numbers we will never be able to hit. So what does it mean for us as a country? And that's where we call it a shift from volume to value. Generics is always a volume game, most of us know. And if we have to shift to value game, it has to be a game of innovation. And a word of caution here for all of us, that our success of past should not be our roadblock for future, because our very good and large scale success of generic model of pharmaceutical trade in the world should not actually stop us from graduating from volume to value. And that is a problem which we all have to solve together. And in life of any individual, and it can be extended to organizations also, it can be extended to countries also, is a very interesting story of Eagle. Some of you would have read it or heard it, but I think it's important for me to put it here in the context. We say that the eagle, when it becomes old, a specific age, the wings are heavier, the beak is longer, the weight is more than what it can manage. And at that point of time, eagle takes a decision that come what may, it can be very painful, but I have to do two things. I have to shed my wings and I have to break my beak. Otherwise, I am not able to pick the insects for eating, and I am not able to fly because of the weak wings and high weight. So it goes to a mountain in isolation. It keeps on hitting its beak on the stone or rock till it breaks. And the eagles bleed to break their beak. It just pulls out the wings so that the newer and smaller wing comes, starves to shed weight, and at the end of that torturous period, we say that it reinvents itself and is able to fly, able to catch prey, and is happy again. But that for that happiness, it has to go through that torturous period of sort of self-destruction. And that's a story for midlife crisis at an individual level, where people say that we have to reorient ourselves, we have to shed our old knowledge, old models, re-strategize our future. And you can extend it to a country level also, whereas I said that we have to re-strategize as a country, that generic model is not going to help us. We have to graduate, come what may, to a innovation game. So, now let's see that if we are convinced that we have to move to innovation game, what are the positives for this country when it comes to doing innovation? So, if you see history of Indian pharma, and the supporting infrastructure, we know that we have the best institutes in the world when it comes to technology, when it comes to the medical sciences, when it comes to management, when it comes to pharmaceutical education. The IITs of the world, IIMs of the world, AIMS of the world, NIPERs of the world, in multiples. So we have an infrastructure created by government which supports the whole ecosystem of knowledge creation and knowledge dissipation. That's the first biggest advantage we as a country have. Then the second bigger one is our experience at the international level when it comes to international business. We know how to create international businesses. And example, people who track the business, global business trends, majority of the global companies are being headed by Indian CEOs. And that's a bigger confidence which we have, that if there is any signal in the system, there are people who can make it big and make it large, make it a global company. So that's a very big advantage as a country. Our tech leadership in IT, which is now being extended to AI, that's a strength, especially in the context of interdisciplinary developments, which the future is all dependent on interdisciplinary developments, be it medical devices, be it biologics, be it small molecules, whatever it is. You will see, and you have all the examples, the whole domain is shifting towards interdisciplinary sciences. So there we have a strong strength. And I'm also very happy to let you know, which will motivate many of us, that today we are actually getting to see structured development supported by government, supported by private agencies, where very interesting research and product-oriented research is happening at the interface of life sciences and technology. I can give you some examples, very interesting example. I was at Jodhpur IIT, and Jodhpur IIT has started giving a degree at the interface of life sciences and technology, a BTech degree, a blend between AIMS Jodhpur and IIT Jodhpur. Both of them, the doctors and the engineers, have come together to teach or conduct research in this area at the interface of life sciences and technology. Many of you would have known, Kanpur IIT is starting a MBBS course, full-fledged medical college within Kanpur IIT. Delhi IIT and Delhi AIMS. The professors from Delhi AIMS are collaborating with Delhi IIT professors to guide thesis in especially the medical technology and medical device domain. Last week I was at my alma mater, BHU. I'm very happy to listen and learn that they have also started medical device, and along with medical college in BHU, they are actually doing the interfacial research or interdisciplinary research. So there are many examples which we see as a initiative. It is coming, which is another signal towards the strength which this country has when it comes to thinking about innovation and promoting innovation. And ultimately, one of the better parts of all this is that these are all product-oriented research. The doctors who know the gap in their practice, doctors who know the gaps in their surgery, the instruments and devices which they today import from Western world, they, in the Indian context, what is required, that is being translated into product by engineers of IITs. Huge positive for India. And the government priority. You will be happy to know that agenda of pharmaceuticals in this country is being monitored from top at the level of Prime Minister of this country. And that's the reason there are very few domains in this country which is so closely monitored by PM's office. And one of them is the pharmaceutical and medical devices. Yesterday I had to take last flight at 11 p.m. in the night, which brought me around 3 a.m. in the morning to hotel, was because of a PMO meeting. And just think that PMO is investing 2 hours in reviewing the reforms, reviewing the deregulation, and asking relevant questions from us. So that is the importance of this domain from the country perspective and the country's leadership perspective. And that has actually pushed us. And I'm probably one of the most happy and proud person to get this opportunity to contribute into this shift of deregulation and rationalization of regulatory system in this country, and opportunity to work so closely with the country's leadership to shape the future of this country. In terms of incentives, in terms of the financial grants, the 100,000 crore Anusandhan fund which government has announced for research and scale up of technologies in life sciences and medical area. The PLIs, the incubators, the network of incubators, the startup culture, the policy intervention, the deregulation drive, everything is towards supporting this whole industry to become competitive globally and keep on contributing to the global public health the way we have been doing for last at least 25, 30, 40 years for now. As a regulator, I'm very proud, and some of my team members are sitting here. I'm sure they are also proud of it. We have approved some of the innovative products in this country, developed by the country, which gives us a huge motivation as a regulator as well as a country. And the first example is the 2 CAR-T therapies for cancer which we approved 1.5 or 2 years ago. And one of them, fully indigenous, a company started by Bombay IT professor, ImmunoAct, the first CAR-T therapy in this country. And when I was in BHO, he was my panel member. And he said that 500 patients have been injected with the approved CAR-T. That means he supported 500 lives for whatever time, 6 months, 1.5 years, 2 years. So that is an indication that this country is capable of doing development of innovative products, and the country's regulator is capable of approving the products, not shying away from taking these applications and approving it. Similarly, the Glenmark story, just a couple of months back. And that will also show the power of innovation. $700 million upfront payment for an asset which is just entering phase 1. That is the potential of innovation. We still don't know whether it will see the light of the day. It's still 3-4 years away from, or maybe more, from hitting the market. But the value which is generated for the company is $700 million and post marketing approval, the royalty in I think double digit. So similarly, if you see the CAR-Ts, 500 doses, if I do a back of envelope calculation, only 500 doses would have given the company a turnover of 200 crores, right? And you know, many of you who are in this business, that this 200 crore, if you have to hit through generic development, how many years it will take for you to do that? So that's the power of innovation. We are approving the software as medical devices. We have approved the first important marketing cell and gene therapy, Zolgensma of Novartis. And without taking the name, we have many applications from Indian companies in this domain who are now entering into phase 1. So in totality, we have very good signs coming from this whole domain of innovation. So that means we are moving in the right direction. The point is, what are the issues which we have to address if we have to be successful to be innovator of the world? So some of the, so can I get a gap of just 2 minutes? I have a very urgent call to take. I'll come back in just 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, he's back. Thanks for the patience. Probably once the session is over, be attentive. Probably maybe a couple of questions on how we, specific questions, please. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, something from yesterday's meeting. So we were talking about gaps. So the first gap which I understand from my close association with government system and dealing with the pharma industry fraternity is the shift in the mindset. If we have to play the game of innovation in this country, we have to shift our mindset, which is largely generic, is still into an innovative mindset where we support the development of innovation. And this mindset, easier said than done, shift is not easy. It needs generation change many times. And I think people sitting here have a big responsibility to shift that mindset for people who are actually now taking over from people like us who are moving out of the system. So that is the first thing which we have to do. And this is also important because it's a very important saying that when you do innovation, innovation has to be very relevant innovation. Because innovation as a definition, you can define many things in innovation. But whether it is a relevant innovation or not, whether it is relevant for public or not, whether it is going to help the public health globally or not, and we say that making a caterpillar run faster is also innovation. But ultimately, the useful innovation is that how many caterpillars are getting converted to butterfly. And that is why we say that don't make caterpillar run faster, make more caterpillars convert into butterfly, and that is the relevant innovation. And one of the bigger gaps, most abused phrase in this country has been industry-academia interaction. I am listening it for last 50 years, and practically nothing has come out. And the reason is that we are working with the mindset of making the caterpillar run faster, not making the caterpillars convert into butterfly. Because academia thinks that whatever they are doing, there will be a customer in industry to take that. They invest 5 years, 7 years in doing something, and after 7 years, industry says that I don't want this. The time has passed. So that the art is that how do I identify that which projects to do. And that is a big gap in this country in terms of our understanding of the whole domain. The company like Lilly, the company like Novo, who came out with this GLP-1 product, they would have identified 20 years ago that this is a product to be developed. And today, within 6 months or less than that, they become the biggest brand of the country. How many of us are actually thinking from that point of view? This is exactly where the caterpillar story fits. So please do that interaction and do that with a potent framework which can identify that whatever you do, wherever you put your resources, that is actually acceptable and useful for people who want to take it further. Ecosystem development, another lot of things are happening from the government, but ultimately it has to become a mass movement. So only government cannot do it. The private industry has to participate, the academia has to participate, the customers have to participate, and I remember one very small story. I read in press, Narayan Murthy ji, the famous Infosys story. He said that he ensures that he buys something from Zomato, which comes through home delivery for eating. Not that he likes to eat from outside. The reason is that he wants to support Zomato. He wants to support that model of Zomato to make them successful. And if his thinking is taken by the population of this country to support innovation, no innovation will fail. But today we are so defensive and we are so risk averse that to do anything new, we think twice. That should I go and order Zomato? Whether they will do justice to the delivery, they will bring in time. And when someone else has validated, then we start doing it. And that's a mindset of being a follower than being an innovator. Historically, I always say that historically, it's unfortunate that we have been ruled by others since ages which has actually bought into our genes to follow and not to lead. Because we had no voice. We had no opportunity to express our thinking historically. Now the scene is changing and you see a lot of developments happening. But historically, we had no voice, and that has led to the whole social structure development where we do not have leaders, we only have followers. And unless until we have leaders who can think different, the innovation is just not possible. Innovation needs original thinking. We cannot just wait and copy somebody who has done, which we have done for long. And that's why I said that our success of past should not become roadblock for us to be successful in future. And that's what risk-taking capacity. In this country as a society, our risk-taking capacity is very low. We shy away from taking risk. And unless until we increase our risk-taking capacity, we will never be an innovator country. Vivekananda has said very, very apt that don't shy away from taking risk. If you are successful, you become a leader. If you fail, you become a guide. And that's the reason why it's always win-win to take a risk. It is just a question of taking that step towards the risk, and you lose, you gain, you are always a winner. It's just a mindset and inhibition which has to be broken and crossed. And risk then comes the next. If you are able to come out of that risk averse mindset and able to take risk, then you become an entrepreneur. And in this country, unfortunately, if you see, out of all the success stories in startups, I don't know how many of them are from pharmaceutical world. Telling thereby that we as pharmaceutical scientists or some as pharmaceutical stakeholders, are we more risk averse? Are we not able to take that plunge? So for younger generation, it is a new philosophy in the new world of the corporate model. Being an entrepreneur is always thought to be more stable than going for a job. Because historically, our parents have told that first preference is government job, second is non-government job, and third is actually business. My dad, when I went for my first job, he said that 50% of your savings should go to National Savings Certificate, where there is a guaranteed return, be it 7 years, 8 years, it takes to double. Unfortunately, he is no more, and I could not show him that my investment in stock market has grown multiple times more than NSE, which I invested in the beginning. But that's the mindset this society still has. But the point is that why I say that being entrepreneur is more stable than going to a job, because many of you would have read, many would have unfortunately experienced this. One morning I go to my office, my laptop is taken back by HR. I have a piece of paper in my hand that this is your final settlement. From tomorrow, you are not required. This we never plan. The unfortunate person, has not planned in his life that one day his job all of a sudden will go. And whole world is topsy-turvy for him. He doesn't know what to do from tomorrow. If you are an entrepreneur, your every day is risky, but you know that it is risky. And you plan for that risk. And that is why when you plan for that risk, we say that entrepreneurship is more stable than going for a job where you can't plan that for how long you are doing in this job. I have experienced this in my leadership role in Reddy's, at least a couple of times, where I had to actually let go my team members. It's an emotional moment. We are not yet that Western world where emotion is zero. So that's a Indian context. That's an Indian social context. We have to see all of that. So that is why it is good for you, it is good for the country, and good for the world that more and more Indian entrepreneurs come into play. And it is for many of people sitting on the front row, it is never too late to become an entrepreneur. The most or best example is McDonald's. After 50 years of age, the person started and made it a multi-billion-dollar organization, globally working and serving, and many of you would have eaten that. And many of you would know, and many of you would not know, that it was started after 50 years of age. So we think that it is now late for us, it is for us to retire. In this world, there is no retirement age. And I'm the best example. And another bigger gap which we have to solve, it is not for any individual, but in this country, we are short of risk capital. Because for any innovation, you need money to support that innovation. And that money is different from any other money which comes for short-term gain. And that is a special kind of risk capital, which special investors are there. If you go to US, Europe, you will have investors who invest only in the discovery companies with a horizon of 20 years for return. But the return then is the multiple of what you have invested. Unfortunately, in this country, it's in a, probably we are in a journey, and it has just started. Still the investors, the domestic or international, they want to invest for a return in 3-4 years. Today's venture capital wants to take out the money in 4 years, in multiples, maximum 5 years. And that's written in agreement with the startup companies that the company will give them 4 times or 10 times multiple in 4 years. So this kind of money will not support a long-term innovation which we are looking at. And this kind of money government can also not provide. One of the unfortunate things which we hear from most of the companies today, that they want grant. Grant in a way is free money. I mean, that's okay. Government should provide some support for innovation. But government has capacity. We cannot give and distribute free money for doing innovation. It has to actually come from that ecosystem of innovation, where you have investors, you have personal money, government support, where government supports mainly from the policy point of view, mainly from the infrastructure point of view. But if I have to distribute free money for innovation, there are lots of restrictions, and that's probably one of the reasons why we are not China and we are India. So, I mean, these are the gaps which we need to address together as a team if we have to be successful in the domain of innovation. And important, the last one, but not the least, the regulator, if you see, in every representation which government gets from top to bottom, one of the main things is that the regulator is becoming roadblock in innovation. So not because I am head of regulatory system in this country, I say this, but if you are a real innovator, regulation is not something which will stop you. And we have demonstrated that if you have something which is innovative, which can move to next level, we fully support. One of the very interesting things happened when I took over. In a couple of months, I was in one of the gatherings, in one of the pharma clusters in North India. And this risk-based inspection was maybe 6 months old. A lot of issues were coming, a lot of actions were being taken. And somebody stood from the audience and said that, sir, since you have taken charge, you are acting like a regulator. Earlier system was more like a facilitator and not a regulator. So I said, okay, I mean, that you may be right. I may be regulator, but facilitation of industry, if it has brought us to this stage where I have to close down 40% of companies in GMP audit, where cough syrups are killing children in Chindwara and Uzbekistan and Cameroon, where our large volume parentals are killing people, pregnant women in Bellary, in Sangarur, in Delhi hospitals. If facilitation takes us to that level, I would rather be a regulator and not a facilitator. So that is one of the biggest fight of my life I am actually currently going through with a sector of industry after my blood. And since the day I joined, they are waiting that when I am going to retire. And the irony is, for them, government has some different thinking. And that is why I said that I am the best example that people don't retire. So, government also has eyes and ears, and it watches what is happening and what is important and good for this country. So, better we understand in time, it is never too late, and come in the mainstream, talk of quality, talk of innovation, so that this country has that sustainable model towards the responsibility to global public health. One of the other areas where I need support from almost all of you sitting here, in regulatory and quality in this country has no setup for deep thinking and research. Whatever we do today in regulatory and quality is all operational. How to compile a dossier for US FDA, we may be very smart. How do I face a audit? We may be very smart. But this all is operational. This will never support innovation. Innovation will be supported by a deep thinking in the domain, research programs in the domain, and where we want today as a country that we start doing deep thinking in regulatory science, we start doing deep thinking in quality science, we start doing research projects in, and research projects in regulatory today, what I see, the professor will say that compare the regulatory system of US, Europe, India, and put it in the thesis. Then how many days IND approval takes in US, how many in Europe, and how many in India. That's the research which we are doing. We need to do research in regulatory and quality, that why this regulatory system is there. The question, relevant question is why to be answered. For that matter, if you ask me, as an extremist, I would think that why regulation is there. And how do I remove regulation? That is the research which we have to do in this country. And then you will see, because we know, and my colleagues also know, since last 2 years we are trying to do deregulation and rationalization, that there are so many irrational regulatory asks which the Act has and rules has. But unless until somebody finds out the reason for what it is and how do we survive without these regulations, where will the change come from? So for all the teachers and all the industry folks, please invest some time and money in doing real deep research and thinking in regulatory science and quality science. It is way beyond compiling dossiers. It is way beyond FDA audits, facing FDA audits. We should have that strength to challenge FDA inspectors that whatever you are saying is not right. For me, the science says that I may not do this, what you are asking. But for that, we should have that confidence. And that confidence will come only if we create that knowledge and dissipate that knowledge of why something is being done and how we cannot do that. So that is very important thing. At the end, my favorite topic, everything is useless, all innovations are useless, or industrial output is useless unless until we have the mindset of quality. You are playing with lives of people, lives of patients. Innovation, it could be the best in the world, but if it is not tagged with quality, it has no value in healthcare system. It is not something where you are putting it in your drawing room and based on AI, when you enter the room, the light puts on itself. It is something which you are giving to patients to either improve their standard of life or cure the infections or the medical conditions through which they are going. Don't offset price with quality. It's a very short-term thinking. And that has come to this country because, unfortunately, for many of us, making a tablet and selling it is same as selling cement and selling saria and selling bricks. We have to understand that difference. And that's always, many of you would have heard I say that it's a Saraswati and Lakshmi tussle. The non-pharma business can be driven by Lakshmi, but pharma, being a knowledge industry, has to be driven by Saraswati. Lakshmi is the outcome of what we do in pharma. You don't need to think about Lakshmi if your Saraswati is right. And that is the crux of pharma industry, product development, manufacturing, whatever we say. And today, the representations which we get that we should extend Schedule M implementation from 31st December to, some of them are saying that for next 2 years we should have holiday, that no regulator should come to my premises for next 2 years. No, don't ask what I'm doing. After 2 years, immediately I will be okay. Because they know that after 2 years I will not be there. So very smart move, but government is more smart. They don't looking into these things now. I think we are convinced that this is the last one. From 1st January, everybody will have to be Schedule M compliant. The letters which we get, the representation which we get, everybody talks of unemployment, price rise, social implications, political implications, anything and everything except quality. Nobody talks that how they will improve quality, but everybody talks that agar meri company band ho jayegi to 200 families will start starving. The price of medicines will go up. My simple question is, if cost of a paracetamol becomes 2 rupees from 1 rupee, how is it going to impact, even if it happens? I mean, I can debate on that how much increase it will happen. But what happens when one child dies drinking a cough syrup? That is, I mean, life is, you can't actually measure in the profitability and the social impact. That's the biggest loss anybody can have. So we have to understand that. And I also want to assure this whole industry domain in this country, and we have demonstrated this, that any genuine player, not a single one is being victimized by regulator. History is a history. There is no personal interest today in CDSCO. If you have a genuine case, we support, we handhold, and we have demonstrated this in medical devices, in startup companies, in cell and gene therapies, in CAR-Ts. We are talking to the entrepreneur. We are talking to the industry. We are solving the problem together. But not for quality non-compliance. So we have to understand this because this is not a question of India. It's not a question of world. It's a question of life and death. And many of you sitting here know. We are saying that please follow GMP. Because by definition, GMP is what makes you make a product which you want to make. Srishan Pharma never wanted to make a product which would kill children. But not having GMP, the person could not understand that this will kill children. And that is where the GMP and non-GMP difference comes. The most apt example, if you don't test the incoming raw material, in spite of being part of the regulation, it's illegal not to test incoming raw material in this country. It's illegal not to test an end product in this country before putting in the market. Even then, we have companies who do that. And one day, this will happen, which happened in Srishan Pharma case. They did not know that they are putting DEG in place of PG because they don't test it. Whatever the vendor gave, they just put it in the cough syrup. They did not even test the final product, and the product went to the market. It might be unintentional, but it's a question of your system. It is not a person-driven. You can never manage a company based on a person's memory and whims and fancies. You will get hit back one day or the other. What happened? Unfortunately, regulators, I take that responsibility also. We are letting that happen. Why are we reactive? The problem is we are reactive because we don't want to implement because of whatever reasons. If we are proactive, if we implement the regulation, we don't need any deregulation. We don't need any amendments in the act and rules. What we need today is just honest implementation of rule which we have. You will never have another Chindwara or another Uzbekistan or another Cameroon in this country. But I don't know what is the reason why we don't do that. Very short-term thinking. And that is why we say that if we have to be successful, grow, help society, the purpose of your life has to be bigger than your individual interest. All these failures, if you sit and think, are only because of your personal ambition of earning little more money in a shorter time. If your purpose was public health support, if your purpose was country's growth and supporting country's commitment towards public health, this will never happen. Because you will not think of your profitability, but you will start thinking, the day you realize this, you will start thinking that how do I do everything which goes to making a quality product. And the discussions which happen, that is more disturbing. On WhatsApp groups, the discussions which happen is whose responsibility was it? Was it state of Tamil Nadu regulator or CDSCO regulator, or somebody said that DCGI is responsible for that? Give me a break. That's a problem which we face. On one hand, children are dying. On the other hand, they are very wise people. Some of them sitting in this audience also. Asking questions like, who is responsible? Nobody said that what was the fault. This is the irony of this country and the way we think. I got extension. Nobody should have any reason to worry. because there are leaders who are looking at it. There is a reason why I got extension. But there were 3 writ petitions filed in this country against my extension. Without any reason. And ultimately all of them are dismissed. So what are we trying to prove? I don't know. Put that energy into the right positive activities, support the country as a whole towards what we are doing. And at the end, I have said that the projection for global trade is 2.4 trillion US dollars in next 6 years. And let me also tell you, there is no competition for India if you do honestly the work which you are doing. Forget about our neighbor. For me, it's not a threat. There is no threat, practically no threat. The business opportunity is on platter in front of you. Only thing which you have to do is, please understand the relevance of quality. If we have to be relevant in the world, we have to understand the relevance of quality in pharma. Period. And then you have this opportunity of trillion US dollars in front of you. Everybody has opportunity to grow 10 times in next 10 years, maybe more. Everybody, sons of the world, Reddy's of the world, Ciplas of the world, they were like in front of our eyes. All these top 10 companies or top 20 companies of this country today, they were small scale MSMEs 20 years ago. They have a history of just 20, 25, 30 years. What is the difference? They understood at some point that what is relevant for their business to grow. They understood that they have the potential to become a global company. And immediately they started changing their mindset, their leadership, their thinking, everything they changed. And today, you have these companies who are competing in the world with respect to quality, innovation, whatever you say. And think of our position. On one hand, I am fighting with one sector of the domain and fighting to make them understand how to make a paracetamol tablet. And one other extreme is, I have CAR-Ts to approve, I have sons of the world to regulate and support global with one regulation. So think of the difficult part which we have. So whatever is required, the country's leadership is doing, we will support the industry. Only thing we need is that sense of optimism that we have everything in our hand. We just have to translate that. And a very small story before I end. Some of you, again, would have heard the famous story of Satyanarayana. There was a big drought in an area, no rains, the agriculture was getting suffered very badly. And then one morning somebody came and said that there is a Mahatma sitting in the next village and he is known for very strong spiritual powers. Let's go and pray that he does something and rain comes. The whole village came. Somebody with flowers, somebody with sweets, somebody with something and all that. There was one Satyanarayana who came with an umbrella. And when he was asked that why umbrella, he said that while coming back we will have rains. That is the optimism which we need. We need more Satyanarayanas in this country. We need more Rahul Purwars in this country to do innovation, to add to optimism that we are the greatest country of the world and we can do anything and everything. We have demonstrated that in COVID. Science is incredible. Don't compromise with science. Unfortunately, that sector of the companies, they don't have value. They don't have understanding of the science of pharma. The day they start understanding the science of pharma, everything is taken care of. Unfortunately, it's a question of will also. It's not a question of skill only. It's a question of will also. I want to do what I have been doing for last so many years. But the times have changed. Without naming a company where I used to work earlier, the culture was very rough, very abusive. In the lobbies, fights would happen. But at the end of the day, the largest generic company of this country, the first company to bring generic model in this country, everything was right, except the culture. And when some of the people used to ask informally in discussions that why can't we change? The answer would be that why should we change? Because we have grown to this stage because of this culture. The company failed to realize that depending on context, you have to change the culture also. And see where today everybody knows where is the company, and so it's sentimental, but it's a big learning for us. So that is why I say this is the right time, may not be late, to change the mindset, become quality conscious, become an innovator, and take this great country to the next level where we have to be. World is waiting for us. We have spoiled the world through our generic model of business by giving affordable generic medicine to everybody in this world. We have spoiled the world. And now we have to pay the price in terms of developing affordable innovation for world, not for India. And that is where everybody's contribution and support is required, so that from pharmacy of the world, we become innovator of the world and meet the expectation of billions of people in this world. With this, I'll end here. Thanks a lot. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, Dr. Raghuvanshi ji. I think thanks again, once again, for taking a 360-degree view of the whole pharma ecosystem. And for this session of India Pharma 2047, Reinvent to Lead, I think we would not have got a better speaker than you, sir. Now, having said that, I think time for a couple of questions, strictly couple of questions. Dr. Khalid Ahmed Khan, Deputy Tax Controller, Karnataka FDA.
Yeah, thank you very much. You introduced me. Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful speech, and I'm sure it has motivated all the youngsters as well as aged people like me who have crossed 50. Like you said, that there's no time for innovation. Now, as a regulator who has put in 27 years of service here in Karnataka state, and you at the helm of affairs, you have seen the problems plaguing the entire drug regulatory system of India, where we are facing with vacant posts and so many other issues, which I need not highlight here. And most importantly, we are facing with the problem of uniformity of interpretation of the law. We are implementing one law, but there has been a lot of disparity and non-uniformity from state to state. I have done some work which I feel is quite feasible. At this stage, I dare to ask you that, do you see a single regulatory system in India merging the state and center? This is my question to you.
Excellent.
3 writs without any reason. The day we propose merger, I don't know, 30 or 300 writs will be in court against the merger of state and central, one regulator. That is a practical issue. Having said that, the point is, it's not a question of, see, there are successful models in federal system also in the world, right? So we can't say that having a federal model is a problem. It can be, but doesn't stop us from doing right things. We should actually look at what is possible rather than looking at what is not possible. If I give you my example at both IPC and CDSCO, I had an opportunity to say that the law doesn't allow me to do this, right? But we decided collectively that there are ways to impact the system within what today we have. And parallelly, you try to develop, change, whatever. And that's exactly what we are doing in CDSU. What we are doing, I'll give you just example. I mean, anybody can do that. We have taken very deep initiative to change our internal processes. We have engaged with the world leader in consultancy in process improvement, Kaizen. We have engaged with BCG for our external process improvement. We are working more on administrative orders rather than looking at the regulation and rules, right? Wherever we have an opportunity, we send strong signals to the system that please change, which has brought us to closing down 40% of the companies. Never happened in this country. So what I'm trying to say is that everybody can work and do a positive contribution within the scope of the current regulation. What is better, what is not so better is a different debate. As professionals, we have to extract the best possible within what has been given to us by government. Small example, if everybody supports the initiative which CDSU is taking today, this country will be a completely different country from the quality point of view. But what happens? We get pushback from our colleagues at different places in implementing. For example, I mean, you are a regulator, you know the CAPA system, you know the RBI recommendations. How many of them are being translated on ground with respect to the execution of the recommendation? That may be, that's what I'm saying. See, that may be easier to implement. If there is one regulator, that may be easier. But if you are having a federal system, that doesn't say that it cannot happen. It is happening today also. But it takes 3 months, 4 months, 6 months sometimes to take that action. So if you support with immediate effect, it will be a completely different system. So something can be better, but when policies, when regulations are made, that cannot satisfy everybody. So you may be right, but for some, that may not be the right best model.
Next question, anyone? Well, last one question, please raise your hand. Yeah, Ravlin Singh Khurana.
खुराना साहब मुझे हमेशा फिक्स कर देते हैं, so आप सवाल इजी पूछिएगा.
सर आज आपको मौका है इनको फिक्स करने के लिए. He has to drive the excipient industry in this country to make it to be a global level.
Thank you for the introduction. So sir, as you pointed out about the cough syrup tragedy, and we all know that the low quality imported excipients have been at the back of this, and we have proposed a lot of good measures which government can take, including when we export to China, we have to file a DMF for excipients there. Whereas any Chinese company can export to India without any regulation. So if we can have some kind of mechanism where we can prevent this low cost excipients coming to the country, so that if they are not available, they'll not be used. So it's one good way of preventing such tragedies. So your opinion, sir?
So first of all, let me correct you. The death did not happen because of low quality imported excipient. Stand corrected?
Yes.
It was because of DEG, and DEG, you don't need to import low quality. DEG itself is a toxic material, right? And I don't know whether you know or not, this company, finally, we had identified in the very beginning, ultimately it came out, I read in somewhere press, when we analyzed, it had 48% DEG. And the formulation which we got from the company had about 46-47% of propylene glycol in the product. So if you get 48% DEG in the composition testing, that means there was no propylene glycol added. 100% addition was DEG. And Ultimately, what is coming out is the manufacturer went to a small toy vendor. Something happened at that end which was a non-pharmaceutical grade material and the vendor was not validated. He probably gave a drum of DEG in place of PG, and what this manufacturer added was 100% DEG, not PG. And then what happened, we see. So it's not low quality imported excipient. Having said that, what you're saying has value. Your representations are there with us. We are deliberating it. But as I said, we have a lot of things. We have to prioritize. We have to see the public interest, everything. I'm sure this will also come on the quality of excipients. But you also have to understand one thing, that at the end of the day, it comes to the ethics of, see, whatever regulation we make, unless until we have our personal ethics, no regulation is going to help you. So even if I make a regulation, if you don't want to test, you will not test it.
Sir,
So
but like
how I make somebody, how I force somebody, no, you have to test it. It is there in the regulation that you have to test it. But if you want to do something illegal, then regulator can't do anything. So even if I bring whatever you say, unless until you follow the regulation, and that is why I said a while ago, that if I start following the regulation which is there today, you don't need to do any amendment. This whole industry will change. So rather
thank you,
than
sir.
pushing government to change regulation, you should put the end users to start testing and following the rules. I mean, that is also going to create a big impact.
Thank you.
Okay, one last question, Sri Venkatesh. I think before that, there is one question from the audience. They have sent me directly on the WhatsApp. Revised Schedule M talks about disinfectants, medical oxygen and all. Separate guidelines and provisions for relaxation not mentioned. So, I don't know, they want to have a bit of explanation.
I think I'm not the right forum for that micro level question.
Okay, that's fine. I think Mr. Venkatesh.
My colleagues are here, Ranga, Rubina, State, Rajshekhar, can interact, whosoever has written this question.
I think,
Please interact, they
I
will
think
be
during
good.
the break we can interact. Sri Venkatesh, I think he wants to ask. He's
good afternoon, sir.
assistant tax controller, and maybe I want to stop here. Yeah.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. It was really thought-provoking speech from your side, sir. So only request what I can make from this audience, sir. Sir, we know that all excipients, it is an extension to our one more person who has asked about these excipients. So in the section 3P definition, already the excipients are covered, substances and excipients are covered. The irony is that most of the excipients license are not taken, sir. But in the schedule M, it says, as far as possible, the excipient should be brought from the approved vendor or, if possible, from the manufacturer level. Even today, if we see, there are no manufacturers who are licensed for excipients specifically. So though the commercial grade of excipients are purchased from the manufacturers, they test as per the monograph, either it may be BP, IP, USP, whatever it is official, and they comply with those requirements and they use in their formulations. But the problem is the process, how it is manufactured, may not be available for a regulator or for an industry person to test the impurity level which is there, which will go out of the site. If it is permitted or if it is licensed, definitely the procedure and the process which are adopted by the manufacturer will help the formulation at the end. So this gap is missing, sir. It has to be addrexed properly, sir. This is
I
my
think,
request.
sir, before he completes his question, I have an extension of that question is, in case of imported excipients, in the Schedule M or in the DNC Act, there is an exemption for imported excipient for any kind of licensing requirements, including, I think, pharmacopoeia monograph. So, hope I'm right. I think.
So see, I mean, these points are not coming to us for the first time. And these are all under discussion. It's a question when we translate into the regulation or whatever amendment. But many things, as I said, what you said also gets covered into the current law. To make it more granular, we might have to do some amendments to be very specific. But if you do the right interpretation and the positive interpretation, not to bypass, but to follow, then I think you will do what is required to be done and your excipients will also fall in the purview. Because by definition, excipients are also drugs today. So you have to understand that, and at the end of the day, as I said, it is all our personal ethics. But the dynamics is so complex that we are not able to do that. Regulatory is also part of that. I'm not saying we are not. It is not shifting the responsibility. Everybody has to actually follow that personal ethics. Otherwise, this is not going to work.
Sir, similar to the medical devices, in case of NSNM, that is non-sterile and non-measurable devices. So similar fashion, I think you can also give an opportunity for the excipient manufacturer for self-registration, so that at least they will be under the radar. We can ascertain the quality at least by that way. So this is my suggestion, sir.
So, I mean, you have seen in last 2 years,
Thank
we
you.
have done so many deregulations, rationalization, T-license is going, BAB, NOC is going, your export NOC has been rationalized, made digital. So there are so many things we have done. So this will also get addressed. It's just a matter of time.
I think great, sir, for your patience and great learning. Probably, I think any more question, there are a lot of hands are there, but then what we will do is probably just after the session, maybe 5-10 minutes, we can have a personal interaction. Great. I think your whole session, I think India's future in global pharma, the whole, what is coming out of this session is India's future in global pharma will not be shaped by scale alone, but by science, standards, skills and systems. We have heard today that regulations must evolve from a gatekeeper to enabler. Education must shift from degree to future-centric. And perhaps the most powerful takeaway from this session is no single stakeholder can shape India's global pharma destiny alone. The future will belong to those who collaborate across government, academia, industry, and global institutions with a shared sense of purpose. If India is to shape the future of global pharma and healthcare, we must move from asking what market can we serve to asking what problems can we solve for the world. I think great, sir, and we had a very insightful session, and always with DCGI, I think whatever time we allot is always less. Thank you, audience, for being such supportive and being great for participation. Thank you, sir, once again.
Good afternoon, delegates. We are continuing with the third session. We are continuing the third session within a short minute. I request the chair, Dr. Jawahar sir and Dr. Gill sir to come in front to share the thing. Soon after this session, we will go for the lunch session. Please be there for 15 minutes.